Peyton Watson, is he going to be the thing that awakens the Denver Nuggets title chances for this upcoming season? They're going to have a lot of decisions to make on how they're going to get the best out of this roster, but there are some things that they're going to be really dependent on to help them to win their second title. And Jamal Murray plays in another Olympic game, looks a little bit shaky still, not quite himself. Where's the confidence level with him right now? And we're also going to talk about how the Denver Nuggets are going to get creative this season with Christian Brown starting in the starting lineup with Julian Strawther. Y'all, we're going to talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, yo? Well, welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Shout out to y'all. Man, it's been a really good day. It's been a really good summer. We are nearing the end of July this year. It seems like it's going fast, and the summer is breezing on by. I hope that you're having a good summer. You're enjoying your time away from NBA basketball for a while. Y'all, we're just a couple months away from training camp starting up in a new NBA season, 3 months away. So we got some good stuff to cover this offseason. It's already been really good. But y'all, shout out to y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here with us all summer. And y'all, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, y'all. Let's talk some Denver Nuggets hoops. Y'all know what time it is, man. Shout out to everybody that's already in the chat. Shout out to everybody that's in here already. I appreciate every single one of y'all for joining in with the episode so far today. So, the Denver Nuggets are in a situation now where they're going to be more reliant on their young players than ever. And if you can tell by the thumbnail, Peyton Watson for me is the guy. Now, here's the thing. Let me build my case to start. Peyton Watson is a 6'7", 6'8" wing that's already shown to be one of the best defensive wings in the NBA. We know all that to be true already. Then you have Christian Brown, who his rookie year helped the Nuggets to win a title at a 6'6" shooting guard, elite athleticism, good above the break three-point shooter, no mid-range game to speak of yet. And also, he's had an up and down offensive career so far, but a lot of room to get better. Julian Strawther this last year, 29% from three, but he has all the chops to be a good offensive player in the league. He can beat you off the dribble, has a really good floater, has a really good three-point shot. There's a lot of things that he should be able to bring to the table as an offensive player. But where we are currently, Peyton Watson, I think, is their best chance. He is their best opportunity for them to be able to step into a situation and say, we're going to have a clear all-NBA level defender on this roster that's going to step in and be a sixth starter this year and also has the offensive tools to be able to make significant enough improvements to where he can be a set piece for you offensively that's not hurting you. Now, again, a lot of this is going to come down to Peyton Watson's development. Everything he is literally doing right now this summer is going to be imperative for the Denver Nuggets title chances, for his ability to be able to influence this team. And what I'm excited for, I'm excited to see how Peyton takes serious the spot-up shooting, the stuff he already showed last year as a pull-up shooter in the mid-range, his ability to attack closeouts, his ability to get to the rim in transition, and even in the half court, his ability to play that dunker spot and to be a reliable mid-range three-point shooter. Now, if you might remember, Peyton Watson had different points in times this last year, where he was able to truly show like he has some ability as a shooter, but he was very inconsistent with it. And a lot of this, I think, is just going to be playing time, getting used to his form. Remember the Memphis Grizzlies game, they challenged him to shoot three-pointers, and then he basically went 4 of 8 the rest of the game after starting off 0 of 2. But that's going to be the kind of coverages that the Nuggets are going to see. Because if Peyton Watson have to give a spot start for somebody like a Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon, or if he develops enough and he gets into that spot and he can say, look, I'm good enough to be a 2 guard. I got some playmaking ability. I can dribble a little bit. The team trusts me. I'm a really good POA defender. I'm a really good off-ball defender. And he can step into the 2 guard role. Teams are going to start the year off doing similar to what the Memphis Grizzlies did. When they're basically going to say, we're going to load up on Jamal and Jokic in that 2-man game. We're going to load up on Michael Porter Jr.'s side. And then we're going to make sure that you're not just going to be able to dump the ball off for a lob to AG or Jokic. When you do get the ball in the pocket, you're going to see multiple hands. And then that way you just can't get an ED lob up. And then if you do get the ball in the pocket, you're going to have to kick it out to Peyton Watson. And Peyton Watson is going to have to be a player that can make people feel bad and deliver offensively. Now, here's the thing. Peyton, very young in his career, currently as it stands as a shooter throughout his career so far, he's shooting about 68% from 0 to 3 feet, which is good. He's only shooting 39.5% from 3 to 10. He is shooting 52.3% on 10 to 16, but again, limited sample size. In his career, he's taken 8% of his shots, roughly 9% of his shots from that mid-range area from 10 to 16 feet. So he definitely has to make improvements there, but you see what his strength could end up being. As a 3-point shooter, didn't shoot super well. His rookie year, 42.9%, but again, he didn't really take any volume of shots from 3-pointer that season. And then this last year, 29.6% from 3. But the thing is that I really think could help him. And again, this is where the Nuggets have to get creative. He's not, as of now, going to have the release that KCP did. Because if you remember, KCP's release is what makes that DHO so deadly. Because when KCP gets the ball off of that dribble handoff with Nikola Jokic, it's going to be a dominant shot, and you're going to get a lot of value out of it because he's going to be able to force the defense to have to bend over the top, leave Jokic open on a little curl down to the rim or a little dive. And then on the other end of that, he can also, if you fake up at him, pass the ball out. Or, he can just take that shot and get it easy too. But in this instance, Peyton Watson, again, lower volume, just 9% of his shot dive of his career, but 50% his rookie year, and then 52.5% from 10 to 16. That's the kind of stuff that I think they just need to be making sure they're building into their offense. And this is going to take Michael Malone being creative, because the reason why I think he might end up being the Denver Nuggets' hope is because he has the skill set that if he pops, if he takes advantage of the team that he's on, he can be such a dangerous force because he's such an elite athlete. Similar to Jonathan Kuminga, just not without maybe the first step explosion, but he just has this ability to be able to rise and lift and jump. And when you have a player that can do that on both ends, it just gives you so much versatility. But again, it's going to come down to, can he be a great play finisher outside of finishing at the rim, and even outside of finishing in transition layups and dunks and such. But again, it's not just that. It's also going to be his free throws. So if you look at per 100 possessions this last year, Peyton Watson on the season was averaging 17.7 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, 2.9 assists. He's a pretty good rebounder, but that needs to go up even more. But the thing is, per 100 possessions, just 3.5 free throws a game. That also should go up this year. He shot 67% from the free throw line. Again, if you're asking me, how do you build like a good template for what Peyton needs to be looking at? I think personally, Peyton needs to be looking at about 34% from 3 this next year, which is not crazy. That's still going to be 3% below league average. 34% from 3, which is making you pay enough. Hopefully that can be even higher. If Peyton Watson gets 36, 37%, that's ideal. That's the territory you want him to get to. But 34% on volume, that's a good thing on improvement. But I think on the other end of this, Peyton Watson being able to take that 50% from mid-range, if he can tick that volume up and he can stay between 49% and 51%, kind of like where he's been over his career, that also is going to be extremely dangerous for this team. So if I'm building a player 0 to 3 feet, definitely want to be around 69, 68%. If you want to be at mid-range on 10 to 16, you want to stay around 49 to 51%. And then in your three-pointer, you want to get up to about 34. That way you can make defenses pay when they slag off. So, y'all, we got more we're going to talk about with Peyton Watson on the other side. And then we're going to talk about Jamal Murray, his Canada performance today, and really kind of where the vibe is with him currently right now. And then we're going to talk about how Michael Malone is going to have to get pretty creative on the other end of this roster, given that they're going to be so young. But we're going to talk about all that and more here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, if you're looking to find the best deals possible, if you're into MLB, if you're into theater, if you're into comedy, y'all, I went to a couple shows in Atlanta that were really fun, that were really great to go to. Using Gametime is really beneficial. Using Gametime to get the Braves games down here. Like, if you want to find a place where you can get great tickets for MLB games, if you're in Denver and you want to go to Coors and you're in another city and you're traveling and you want to see the best MLB games, then you're not going to beat Gametime, y'all. Like, literally, they have last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off of buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And then you also, y'all, make sure your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So, y'all, take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Y'all, we'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, we are back here with Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Thank y'all so much for being here with us again, y'all. This has been a really, really good summer. More great basketball content to come out with myself, Adam, and Matt. We really appreciate y'all making this one of the best places to do NBA content on the net. But y'all, make sure if you're on the YouTube side, make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. We want to get up to 10,000 subscribers by the end of next year. That is a goal that Locked On has. Let's make sure that we get there, y'all, because we can give you even more content when we do that. Y'all, if you're on the Apple iTunes side, give us a 5-star review. That way more and more people can listen to the great content that we're making over here. But y'all, this is another thing. I saw this in the comments section earlier, and then if you're on the audio side, I'll read it out loud for you. From Big Honey, shout out Big Honey, constant listener here at Locked On. A supersized lineup with P-Watt, MPJ, AEG at the 2, 3, 4 could be interesting. Now, y'all have tapped right in. You tapped in to exactly what some of the things are that I'm thinking about. Because if the Nuggets are not going to have the same level of offensive punch, let's just say, the Nuggets are going to slip from 7 to 9 offensively or whatever else it did, which is not an incredible drop on like a 118.9 offensive rating to a 118.1, but it's enough. But the Nuggets can improve by having so much length on the court, similar to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where there's so much length all the time that it's just so much to deal with for NBA offenses. And I think that's where Peyton Watson can continue to make his mark because, again, he's such a good defender. He's such a good rim protector. He's such a good weak side defender. Now, he is going to have to improve as an on-ball player consistently because he's so long, navigating screens, getting around screens. But the thing about Peyton is that because his length is like tremendous, especially at that size, and potentially playing the 2 and 3 this year, he's going to be able to kind of get around those screens and still be able to put a hand up and either get a hand on the ball from behind the player or on the side, similar to what Michael Porter Jr. does when he's playing at his best as well. So Peyton Watson can have some really cool opportunities, but it's just going to be a matter of him weaponizing his skill set. Like I said, 34% from 3, 49 to 51% from mid-range, 10 to 16 feet specifically. And then in the corner three-pointers, when you're open, 38%, 39% has to be about that. If you're not great above the breaks, that's okay. but you need to be in the corners around 38, 39 because you got to make people pay consistently. But y'all talk about Jamal Murray. So Jamal Murray is currently playing with Team Canada. Canada is 2-0 for the record. They won again today over Australia, 93-83. Jamal Murray, though, has been coming off the bench so far with Team Canada. And Jamal Murray today, he played 24 minutes, which is a lot. He played more minutes than Lou Dort. Andrew Nembhard off the bench also played 23 minutes. Jamal was 2 of 7 from the field, 1 of 5 from the 3, 0-0 from the free throw line. He did have 3 rebounds. He had 5 assists, and he had 5 points. So far, Jamal hasn't popped on the Olympic level yet. It seems that from Jordi Fernandez, the head coach of Team Canada, that there's something that he's been dealing with. Don't know how serious it is. Jamal says he feels good, but he implied that there was something that's been a part of it. Like there's almost like a minutes restriction as well, and Jamal's working through it. And the thing is with Jamal right now, because of how he ended the season, 18 points a game versus the Minnesota Timberwolves on not good efficiency. And again, had he been his normal self through the playoffs, they likely don't have to worry about getting out in Game 7 because they're just not in that situation. But I think Jamal, he's currently looking at the largest contract of his career, where he's going to be roughly making about $52 million a year on a 4-year, $209. Now, we'll see what the incentives and such look like on that deal. But as currently constructed, the way Jamal Murray is giving, the feelings people are having about him are just maybe lower than they've ever been. And the reason I say that is not because of, like, the injury stuff back in the day was one thing. But, Jamal Murray had just come off the bubble, and then he tore his ACL after 48 of the best games he's ever played in his career. Shot like 82%. Like from 0 to 3 feet, like just an incredible season, 41% from 3, and then was also cooking from the free throw line. I mean, he was doing everything. But I think as of right now, the way that Jamal Murray is playing, there are just a lot of questions about his durability, a lot of questions of how much the Nuggets are going to be able to rely on him, and a lot of questions on, is this going to be a player that the Nuggets want to invest in for 4 years at about 52? And that's tough because Jamal Murray was clearly the second best player on a title team. He was almost the second best player on another title team just last year that at least should have got to the Western Conference Finals. But going forward, Jamal's 27. And, my coworker and I, Matt Moore, we were having a little discussion on Twitter, and he asked me, can I think Jamal Murray, his bar for games played needs to be about 65 this next year. And the reason is because, Jokic has been carrying such a heavy load for so long that I think that he just needs another player. Jokic is 29 now. He is 29 now. You're like, there's levels that he's reached as a player that very few have ever reached, maybe 10 in NBA history at his peak. But the thing is Joker needs another all-NBA, all-star level player next to him. And Jamal, I think, is the best bet to do that, outside of Michael Porter. And then next up, probably Peyton Watson on the team in totality. But I think Jamal is just going to have to be able to come into this year, play about 65 games, have the best year of his career. He probably needs to average about 22, 5, and 6 on, again, 48% from the field, what he did last season, 42% from 3, 90% from the line, because that's how good of a free throw shooter he is. And again, you put those numbers across the board, you're basically averaging, 22, 4.5, and 6. And then you're shooting, 48, 47 from the field, and then you're shooting 42% from 3, and then 90% from the line. Like, it's like you and a couple of the players that are doing that in the league. But I think that's the thing. I think that's what Jamal is. It's just that Jamal is showing right now that, people are asking the question, is he overly dependent? Is his skill set overly dependent on Nikola Jokic? And I don't think that's fair, because I think Jamal has proven that he's been able to rise to the occasion when Joker's on the bench. And then even during the title year, I want to say I think Jamal played maybe, it was over 4 games, might have been 6. I can't remember the exact number was, without Joker in 2022-23. And Jamal Murray averaged about 22 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists over that time. So he has it in him for sure. But it's just going to be about, are they able to get him healthy to the playoffs and also help them enough in the regular season, to where Joker is not going into the playoffs like super gas, and Jamal also is not dealing with another calf injury. So again, his Q score amongst NBA fans is not super high right now, but I think all of that can change. Maybe he has a couple of good, really good Olympic games, and then also maybe he's able to come into camp. He looks ready to go. He's ready to rock, and then he comes out this season, first 10 games of the year, averaging like 25 points a game. And you're like, oh, cool, I'm with it. Jamal's in that spot now. He's 27 years old. He's at his, in his prime, at his peak. This is kind of who he is. He needs to continue to build off that. But y'all, on the other side, we're going to talk about some of these special adjustments I think the Denver Nuggets are going to have to make this year. Some with Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, but even some philosophical things that might need to be addressed for them to be able to do it. We're going to talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the third and final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper, and we're here talking about the Denver Nuggets offseason and some of the things that they need to be looking at this year. So the Denver Nuggets are going to have to get creative. Quite simply, because not only is their fifth starter going to be up for grabs this year between Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, but I think philosophically, because you are missing the mid-range specialist in KCP and the corner specialist in KCP, this is probably going to alter the way that they're building their game plan. And the reason I say that is because I think if you're going to have Christian in the game and Peyton in the game and Julian even for that matter, you're probably going to have to play a little bit faster than normal. And the reason is because Christian Brown, he is very good at certain things, beating somebody off the dribble and then, not charging into them and then not doing excessive movement. That's not something he's done up to this point in his career super well. But I do think the thing is that if Christian's able to develop like a real transition game and Nuggets are building transition into their offense, and the more he can like fly towards the rim, unmitigated, unchecked, that's the kind of thing I think that they're going to need. And even just for getting Christian's rhythm going, when it comes to him making shots, can we continue to feed him going towards the basket? It's going to be really important. So it's going to be interesting how Jokic makes AG, Christian, Peyton, and Julian work. But I think Michael Porter Jr. is also going to be another one, man, where Porter is going to have to be staggered with that second unit quite often, just because if you're going to want Russell Westbrook and Julian Strawther in there, you're going to want Michael Porter Jr. with Dario Saric and maybe another name. But again, the reason is just because you just need to continue to find lineups and find things that work well together and in the way that players can play to their strengths. And the strength of Christian is his athleticism and then above the break shooting. So make sure you're focusing on how do you implement that. Peyton Watson, honestly, there's a few things. He's really good in transition. And then on the other end of this, he also has some chops in the half-court game. So he's going to need to find a way to accentuate those traits and then not take away from the offense. That's the other part about playing with the Nuggets. And this is also something Russell Westbrook is going to learn. There's an offensive style to the Nuggets. There's an offensive style to the Nuggets where everybody eats and everybody passes the ball, and everybody knows that if you get rid of the ball and you move, you will likely get the ball back if you're open. So a lot of this is going to come down to how are they getting Russell Westbrook to engage with another style of basketball he's not used to. And then on the other end of this, are we helping for Peyton Watson to be able to find some consistency in his jump shot, to find ways to get him easy buckets on the floor. Christian Brown, same thing, working him in transition, running him in transition, getting him going to the basket. And then that way, when he gets a steal or whatever, he can finish it and dunk it and can transition and all that. Like just finding easy buckets for everybody. That way they can take care of business and do what needs to be done. So it's going to be really exciting because I think Malone in particular is going to be pressed this year to do some things that he hasn't had to do to the same degree. But I think that this is going to be a test of Calvin Booth, obviously, because now Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, Trey Alexander, there's 4 people right there that have all kind of taken up these roster spots, soon to be Trey, where they are going to be on this roster. They're going to be one Trey Alexander, a two-way player, and they're going to need real production out of them. But again, Calvin had this in mind with Peyton Watson and Christian Brown and Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett and Trey Alexander potentially and Julian Strother. That's 6 names basically. So how are they going to make sure they're getting these young players in rotation and getting rest to the older players? Because for me, that is going to be important as you're getting towards the end of the season, that making sure in the months of March and April, Jokic especially, is just like, you know what? Cool. We're pretty secure in where our spot is going to be this season. 1st, 2nd, or 3rd seed, maybe even 4th, depending on how the year shakes out. But we're good with that. We have home court, but what we really, truly need is rest. That's going to be something that they're going to be able to point to and look at. So, but it's just a matter of how are they prioritizing certain matchups, lineup configurations. They have an extra roster spot available. Are they going to add another veteran? Justin Holiday, does he come back? Are they going to prioritize real talent over draft stock, which is, again, Trey Alexander versus Jalen Pickett? Jalen is a good player, but, there are just some real gaps in this game. How can they continue to show that if you want something to happen, then you have to really start from building it early on and off in the off season. And now, and that means building the rotation and such now. So it's going to be really interesting. And I think that a lot of people are going to be surprised. Because let me tell you something that I've been hearing a lot lately. A lot of people, friends of mine, even some people that work in the media industry, they think that the Nuggets, some people are literally believing the Nuggets are going to struggle to win 50 games this year. Namely because KCP's gone and Bruce Brown left the year before. So, yeah, like, are they going to be a different team? 1,000%. Are they going to be a team that has to think through more things? Yeah. Are they going to have to be a team that has to process their offensive flow differently? Of course. Are they going to be a team that has to implement some new defensive strategies if they don't have a chaser as good as KCP? 1,000%. But ultimately, what this is going to come down to is, can they get Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, and can they get them going in the hyperdrive to contribute? Because that's going to be the difference between them being able to go into the playoffs, top 3, top 2 seed, championship favorite, or them kind of bottoming out where Jokic and Murray and Gordon and Porter are just exhausted. And again, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's the strategy there. It's the strategy there for everybody needing to do what they're supposed to do. And I love that the Nuggets are a team that constantly shows that when our back is against the wall, we are still better than you think. And like I said, right now, people are questioning if they're going to win 50. They're questioning if they're a top 4 seed in the conference. They're looking at the Memphis Grizzlies, looking at the Dallas Mavericks, looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves, looking at the OKC Thunder, and saying those teams are all better. So their back is gonna be against the wall. But maybe it should be. Like, maybe it just needs to be understood that it's not going to be a cakewalk like it was last year. But I think that there are going to be some really smart things for them to do to take advantage of the roster they had. Again, Russell Westbrook, Julian Strother, Peyton Watson, Blako Chanchar. And then again, being in a situation where you got Dario Saric, like, okay, now you can play around with the lineup flexibility and how you want things to look and where you want people to be. You got, again, mostly veterans that are coming off the bench and being able to contribute. So now in this situation, it's just going to be about, can they deploy an offensive strategy that is conducive with the skill set on the court? Can they allow for Michael Porter Jr. to have more freedom, more range as a scorer shooter? Can they take advantage of the fact that we're in a situation where we want to make sure that we're ascending the roster because the roster's so young. That means everybody needs to play. Everybody that's on the roster that can play needs to play. That's what Michael Malone thinks, because that's what Calvin Booth is betting on. Everybody has to play. If they're on the roster and they're benefiting in some way, shape, or form, they have to play. It's quite that simple. But that's going to be up to Malone and Calvin Booth working out a strategy. Y'all, that's going to do it for Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. Adam and Matt will be with you tomorrow for another episode, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And give us a 5-star review when you can. That's going to do it, y'all. I appreciate it. Y'all know what time it is. This is your boy, Swiper. See y'all on the other side.